A very good morning, just past 8 by the clock. We're back again with another edition of Breakfast News. This is your first comprehensive 60 minutes of Power Pack News where we get you all the latest from the field of politics, business, sports and entertainment, where we cut all the noise, bring you news as it happens. I'm Anil Thomas and you take you through the next 60 minutes is my co-anchor this morning, Rukma Datta. Good morning, Rukma.
A very good morning to you, Anil, and to all our viewers as well. Welcome to news that's to shape your day today as we take stock of the All India Presiding Officers Conference that begins today in Shimla. The Prime Minister will be addressing that. We'll be connecting with our reporter on that issue. In international news as well, a suicide blast in Uganda. Meanwhile, lots of sports news today, lots of sports updates as winter steps in and sports season moves in. Well, all that and more in the next 1 hour. But first, here are the headlines.
Prime Minister Narendra Modi will address the inaugural session of the 82nd All India Presiding Officers Conference today via video conferencing. AIPOC, the apex body of the legislatures in India, is celebrating its 100 years in 2021.
Raksha Mantri Rajnath Singh will inaugurate 3-day Rashtra Raksha Samarpan Parv in Jhansi in Uttar Pradesh as part of Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav celebrations. PM Modi to dedicate to the nation a number of schemes in a grand ceremony on the 19th of November.
Operations of the Kartarpur Sahib corridor resumes from today. Decision will benefit a large number of Sikh pilgrims. Kartarpur Sahib is a place of worship and devotion for millions of Indians.
Commission for Equality Management issues directions to governments of Delhi, Haryana, Rajasthan and UP to counter air pollution. All schools, colleges and educational institutions in Delhi NCR to remain shut until further notice. Supreme Court to hear the matter of air pollution in Delhi NCR today.
US Special Envoy for Afghanistan Thomas West visits New Delhi. Calls on National Security Advisor Ajit Doval and exchange views on the recent developments and issues of common interest in Afghanistan.
Suicide bombers target Ugandan capital Kampala, killing at least 3 and injuring more than 30 others. Islamic State group claims responsibility.
Poland turns water cannon on migrants on the border with Belarus. NATO reiterates its support for Warsaw in a crisis that has left thousands stranded on the frontier in icy temperature.
Three-match T20 International Series between India and New Zealand begins today at Sawai Mansingh Indoor Stadium in Jaipur. Rohit Sharma will lead the Indian team.
Well, those are the top stories now, starting with the top story on the Prime Minister's event this morning. Prime Minister Narendra Modi will address the inaugural session of the 82nd All India Presiding Officers Conference today via video conferencing. The All India Presiding Officers Conference, the apex body of the legislatures in India, is celebrating its 100 years in 2021. To commemorate the centennial year of AIPOC, the two-day 82nd edition of the All India Presiding Officers Conference will begin in Shimla today. The first conference was held in Shimla in 1921. Speaker Lok Sabha, Chief Minister Himachal Pradesh and Deputy Chairman Rajya Sabha will be present on the occasion.
And joining us now is our correspondent Arun Sharma with more details on the conference and what it entails. Arun, a very good morning to you. It's the 82nd edition of the All India Presiding Officers Conference. The Prime Minister will be addressing it in a few hours from now. But when we talk about the conference and the times in which it is being held, nothing is the same as it was since the previous such conference was held in person. So take us through all that could change, all the issues that could be touched upon, and the significance of the holding of this conference.
Good morning, Rukma and Anil, and indeed it's very significant as far as the All India Presiding Officers Conference is concerned. First of all, this time it is being held in Shimla, and it is for the 7th time that the Presiding Officers Conference is being held in Shimla. In 1921, interestingly, the first this conference was held in Shimla, and in this 100th year, this is the 100th year primarily, and this conference is being held in Shimla. It holds an importance ahead of the Parliament session as well, the winter session primarily. And we know this fact that two important issues are likely to dominate as far as All India Presiding Officers Conference is concerned. Number one, the journey so far in last 100 years as legislators, how the legislators have upgraded themselves in last 100 years, what have their role in strengthening the parliamentary democracy primarily. So to introspect in last 100 years, that will likely to dominate as far as this 82nd All India Presiding Officers Conference is concerned. Second important aspect is that, how can the legislators play an important role as far as strengthening the parliamentary democracy going forward. And of course, for the fact that, we know this fact that how disciplined the legislatives can be, how a parliamentary ecosystem can be made much more disciplined, how can better debates can be done, how can time, be saved as far as, by avoiding the hue and cry in the parliament, of course, ensuring there is healthy debate. How can the youngsters' participation be increased in various parliamentary committees that are being formed, and how can the parliamentary democracy can be strengthened is the core agenda as far as this All India Presiding Officers Conference is concerned. We also know this fact that, the state legislators or state legislative assemblies, we have seen that how they've upgraded themselves technologically as well. Even Lok Sabha Speaker has lauded the efforts of the state legislators as to how they have upgraded themselves on a technological front, and how can going forward in this post-COVID pandemic time, these kind of formats of technological upgradation can be done. We have seen that how during the COVID pandemic time, the legislatives were holding the proceedings, the parliamentary proceedings in a hybrid format, and of course how social distancing was ensured as far as the parliamentary proceedings are concerned. So technological upgradation has taken place. A lot of digitization has happened in parliamentary proceedings now on, and we are seeing that less printing of booklets and more emphasis on digital prints primarily is being witnessed as far as parliamentary proceedings are concerned. We are witnessing that how the working hours being increased. We're also witnessing that how more and more bills are being passed in the parliament. Yes, introspection will be done for the last 100 years, how the parliamentary proceedings have changed, how they have upgraded themselves, and how more working output can be ensured in the parliamentary proceedings, and how legislators can play an important role. So this All India Presiding Officers Conference will completely be focusing upon these two aspects. With Prime Minister Narendra Modi will also be addressing. This is a 2-day 82nd edition of All India Presiding Officers Conference that begins today, and this was also held for the first time in 1921. That was the first conference, and this time around in 2021, in 100th year primarily, this conference is being held where Prime Minister Narendra Modi will also be participating.
Okay, now Arun, also bring us abreast with topics that could be pondered upon, especially the decorum, the discipline. There has been a general decay in the legislative business that you see in the parliament. Is that going to be a point of consideration that's going to be deliberated upon in the next 2 days?
Well, maintaining the decorum, discipline by the legislator, by of course the assembly, the legislative assembly primarily, that is likely to dominate. Some of the committees have also been formed, as far as how these decorum should be maintained, what actions can be taken. But the basic idea of this All India Presiding Officers Conference will completely be on three facts primarily. Number one, introspection of the last 100 years, what are the journey so far in last 100 years. Second, yes, of course, the decorum, how to maintain it. The legislatives primarily, how can they maintain the decorum? How can there be healthy debates primarily? Because, we are witnessing that the youngsters' participation is increasing. Not only the legislative area, but the common person, the common youngster also, they're observing these parliamentary debates. They're also observing that how the legislative or the representatives are representing them in the parliament. So yes, how can the youngsters' participation can be increased? And of course, last but not the least, how can primarily there can be healthy debates so that we get the proper output of any kind of bills that are being introduced. We know this fact that any bill that is introduced in the parliament, there are various debates that goes on. The opposition ensures that the weaknesses in the bill can be strengthened, and of course the executives or the legislatives, or of course the party primarily ensures that how can more bills be passed so that it benefits the common person. So the idea of the legislative is to ensure that how can benefit be given to the common man, and it can only be done via healthy debates in the parliament. So legislators can ensure that aspect. So yes, healthy debate is one of the important component to it. By making hue and cry in the parliament, by not maintaining the decorum, by indulging in sloganeering. So this will not ensure that a bill is passed properly, and of course all the aspects of the bills are discussed. So in that context, a healthy debate is to be ensured, and for that what needs to be done, a committee has also been formed in that aspect. Last but not the least, how can technologically upgradation can be done of in the mechanism of the parliamentary proceedings, how in the various parliamentary committees the youngsters' participation can increase. So how these legislators will ensure this on all these issues. Primarily the deliberations will happen, and in that context, this 100th year, the centennial year, you can say that is going to be very much significant, whereby All India Presiding Officers Conference is being held in Shimla.
Okay, we'll leave it there. Thank you and appreciate you joining us. That particular program will be broadcast live in a short while from now, when the Prime Minister will inaugurate and address the presiding, the 82nd All India Presiding Officers Conference there in Shimla. Moving on to our next story.
As part of Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav, the Defence Ministry will dedicate several schemes to the nation during the Rashtra Raksha Samarpan Parv from today to the 19th. The event will be kick-started from Jhansi in Uttar Pradesh. Rajnath Singh, Union Defence Minister, will be doing the honours. Prime Minister will dedicate to the nation several new initiatives of the ministry from Jhansi on Friday. And joining us now is our correspondent. We are trying to get in touch.
The 3-day military extravaganza, the Rashtra Raksha Samarpan Parv, is being held at Jhansi. It was the Queen of the princely state of Jhansi, Rani Lakshmi Bai, who fought the first battle of independence against the British. And therefore it is apt that the Rashtra Raksha Samarpan Parv is being held to mark the Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav year. Jhansi is also one of the nodes of the UP Defence Industrial Corridor.
The city of Jhansi is all decked up. The Prime Minister and Defence Minister are going to announce mega schemes under the Defence Ministry here, like setting up of 100 more Sainik schools in the next 2 years all across the country, in which girls will soon be admitted, as the Prime Minister gave the clarion call from the Red Fort this year. Simulators for all 3 wings of the NCC will be set up all across the country. Rifle firing, micro-light aircraft flying and rowing will also be set up in all directorates to better train the cadets. A mobile application which will offer a 360-degree virtual tour of the National War Memorial in 21 language options will also be dedicated to the nation. Prime Minister Modi will hand over the light combat helicopter designed and developed by Hindustan Aeronautics Limited to the Air Force Chief. An electronic warfare suit for warships developed by BEL and UAVs developed by startups will be handed over to the Navy and Army respectively.
The 2 defence industrial corridors, one at UP and another at Tamil Nadu, have been built to push for indigenous defence manufacturing and high technology in India. They will be realising Prime Minister Modi's dream of Make in India and Make for the World. On Friday, the Prime Minister would be dedicating to the nation the Bharat Dynamics Limited's facility here at Jhansi. This is a 400 crore rupees project, and Bharat Dynamics Limited will be manufacturing propulsion systems for anti-tank guided missiles here, making it another step towards Atmanirbhar Bharat. With camera person AMG Surendra, in Jhansi, this is Nandita Dagar for DD News.
And joining us now is Nandita Dagar. Nandita, so the Rashtra Raksha Samarpan Divas begins today. Take us through its significance. How is the government associating heroes of the freedom struggle, great heroes and warrior queen, the warrior queen Jhansi Ki Rani, with this mega event?
Yes, Rukma, Jhansi is one of the hubs or cogs in the wheel if you consider the battle for or the struggle for independence, because the first battle of independence in 1857 was fought by the queen of the princely state of Jhansi, Rani Lakshmi Bai. And this place is littered actually with Chitrakoot, Banda. These are places nearby the whole of Bundelkhand, where freedom fighters lived and breathed and struggled and fought. So apart from that, the government, apart from honoring the heroes in the Azadi Ka Amrut Mahotsav or the 75th year of India's independence, is also actually looking to push for reforms or to showcase the kind of reforms that it has made in the defense procurement, so that private industry, domestic Indian industry is attracted to the two defense corridors, one in UP and another in Tamil Nadu. The one in UP, of course, one of the nodes of that is Jhansi. The other hotspots in the UP Defence Industrial Corridor are Aligarh, Agra, Kanpur, Chitrakoot, Jhansi, etc. So the government is saying that we to give a push to Atmanirbhar Bharat, so that high technology items are manufactured for our armed forces, not compromising on modernization, not compromising on efficacy, yet products made in India and are made for the forces. As you know that the Prime Minister, Mr. Narendra Modi, has set a target of $25 billion for exports also of defense by the year 2025, when India, he says, should be becoming a $5 trillion economy. So considering that, the Rashtra Raksha Samarpan Parv will be showcasing the UP Defence Industrial Corridor. As you just saw in my report, there was this Bharat Dynamics Limited facility which is being inaugurated. Also, several new things like the advanced light combat helicopter will be handed over to the Air Force. That, of course, has been manufactured by the Hindustan Aeronautics Limited. It's a combat helicopter in the 8-ton load category. You can be used in roles such as attack, search and rescue, reconnaissance, etc. UAVs which have been designed by Indian startups. There is an IDEX initiative of the Defense Ministry where young startups, budding industries are handheld by the Ministry of Defense. They are partially funded also by the Ministry of Defense, and they can testing ranges and other logistics, other facilities are also provided by the Ministry of Defense. So these are the initiatives which will be showcased. The Prime Minister, of course, is today the Defense Minister will be arriving, that is on 17th on Wednesday. On Friday, the Prime Minister will be here. He will be, of course, participating in a mega show which will be held at the iconic Jhansi Fort, the Fort of Jhansi. In that backdrop, the Prime Minister will be, along with the Chief of Defence Staff, the Army Chief, the Navy Chief and the Air Force Chief, will be dedicating to the nation several projects. Rukma?
Okay, Nandita, does it also take forward, Prime Minister Modi, what he's been vouching for, Atmanirbhar Bharat or self-reliant India, especially in the defense sector?
Yes, that's just what I said, that when you make products in India, in the UP or Tamil Nadu Defense Industrial Corridor, where logistics, environment, resources, connectivity, everything is provided. It is like a special economic zone for defense manufacturing of arms, platforms, high technology items. Apart from that, Anil, if I could just add one more thing, the Prime Minister will be announcing Sainik schools, 100 more Sainik schools all across the country. And as the Prime Minister had announced in his Red Fort speech this year on 15th of August, when he kick-started the Azadi Ka Amrut Mahotsav celebrations, these Sainik schools will be open for girl students also. So, and the app for a National War Memorial, an application on your phone where you can visit the National War Memorial, light a candle to our heroes, our martyrs. This app will be offering a 360-degree view, a virtual guided tour through the National War Memorial. So these are some of the things that the Prime Minister will be launching from here in Jhansi.
Okay, we'll leave it there. Thank you and appreciate you joining us this morning on Breakfast News, giving an insight especially into the significant event there by the Defence Ministry.
And our more news now.
Well, moving on in a welcome news for Sikh pilgrims, India has decided to reopen the Sri Kartarpur Sahib corridor from today after a dip in the number of COVID-19 cases in the country. It will benefit a large number of Sikh pilgrims. Sri Kartarpur Sahib is a place of worship and devotion for millions of Indians.
Ahead of Guru Purab, the Modi government has made a big decision to reopen the Kartarpur corridor. In view of COVID-19 pandemic, this corridor was closed in March 2020. Modi government's decision will come into effect from the 17th of November, that is Wednesday. Union Home Minister Amit Shah in a tweet informed about this decision. In the tweet, he wrote, "In a major decision that will benefit large number of Sikh pilgrims, Prime Minister Narendra Modi's government has decided to reopen the Kartarpur Sahib corridor from November 17. This decision reflects the immense reverence of Modi government towards Shri Guru Nanak Dev Ji and our Sikh community. The nation is all set to celebrate the Prakash Utsav of Shri Guru Nanak Dev Ji on the 19th of November, and I'm sure that PM Modi's government's decision to reopen the Kartarpur Sahib corridor will further boost the joy and happiness across the country." Amit Shah took a review meeting with officials to add momentum to the work on reopening of the corridor. Delegations from several states have met Prime Minister Narendra Modi in the past few days and called for opening the Kartarpur corridor once again.
ਸਰਕਾਰ ਦੇ ਇਸ ਫੈਸਲੇ ਤੋਂ ਬਹੁਤ ਖੁਸ਼ ਹਾਂ। ਸਰਕਾਰ ਨੂੰ ਮੈਂ ਵਧਾਈ ਦਿੰਦਾ। ਪਤਾ ਲੱਗਿਆ ਵੀ ਕਰਤਾਰਪੁਰ ਕੋਰੀਡੋਰ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਡੇਰਾ ਬਾਬਾ ਨਾਨਕ ਆ ਉਹ ਖੋਲਣ ਦੀ ਮਨਜ਼ੂਰੀ ਗਵਰਨਮੈਂਟ ਨੇ ਦਿੱਤੀ ਆ। ਇਹਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਲੋਕਾਂ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਬਹੁਤ ਖੁਸ਼ੀ ਦੀ ਲਹਿਰ ਜਾਗੀ ਆ।
ਜਾਨੀ ਕਿ ਸਾਰੀ ਦੁਨੀਆ ਨੂੰ ਇਹ ਅੱਛਾ ਲੱਗਾ, ਵਧੀਆ ਲੱਗਾ, ਮੈਨੂੰ ਵੀ ਵਧੀਆ ਲੱਗਾ, ਇਹ ਬਹੁਤ ਵਧੀਆ ਕਦਮ ਹੈ।
BJP National President JP Nadu too thanked the Modi government on this decision. Following this decision, former Punjab Chief Minister Captain Amrinder Singh in a tweet thanked Prime Minister Modi and Home Minister Amit Shah. In a tweet, he wrote, "My profound gratitude to Prime Minister Narendra Modi and Home Minister Amit Shah for the timely opening of the Kartarpur Sahib corridor. It will provide a chance to thousands of devotees to pay obeisance at the holy shrine on the occasion of Guru Purab of Guru Nanak Dev Ji." It is pertinent to note that the Union Cabinet had passed a resolution on November 22, 2018 to celebrate the historic occasion of the 550th birth anniversary of Guru Nanak Dev Ji in a grand and befitting manner throughout the country and across the globe. In a landmark decision, the Union Cabinet had also approved the building and development of the Sri Kartarpur Sahib corridor from Dera Baba Nanak to the international boundary to facilitate pilgrims from India to visit Gurudwara Darbar Sahib Kartarpur round the year. Bureau Report, DD India.
And local residents welcomed the reopening of Sri Kartarpur Sahib corridor, which was closed due to the pandemic. They thanked the government of India for the decision to open the corridor.
इससे बहुत लोगों को फायदा भी है और श्रद्धालु जो देखते हैं अभी हम लोग मतलब कि आगे गुरु नानक देव जी के घर में माथा टेकने के लिए जाएं तो उनके लिए बहुत बड़ी ये बात है, खुशी की लहर है कि ये दोबारा खुल गया है।
बहुत खुशी का दिन है कि ये अपना हमारी सरकार ने इसको खोल दिया है और ठीक है, जो कोविड की अपनी है वो भी साथ साथ चलेगा ही, लेकिन मेरे ख्याल से तो पूरा पंजाब का पूरा हिंदुस्तान इससे बहुत ज़्यादा खुश है।
बहुत ही वेलकम स्टेप है, सब लोग इसका बहुत तहे दिल से बहुत शुक्रगुजार हैं पीएम का कि उन्होंने ये स्टेप लिया।
Well, newly appointed US Special Representative for Afghanistan, Thomas West, called Foreign Secretary Harshvardhan Shringla, and the discussion between the two leaders focused on the current developments in Afghanistan. After the meeting, Thomas West said that the US will work together with its close partner to address abundant shared interest in a stable and peaceful Afghanistan. Topics included the recently held regional security dialogue of NSAs on Afghanistan in New Delhi, the movement of people in and out of Afghanistan, coordinating global efforts on humanitarian assistance to Afghanistan, regional security issues, and other bilateral and international issues of mutual interest.
And there's good news on the vaccination front again, as our vaccination coverage has now crossed 113.61 crores. Of total vaccinations, 75 crore 54 lakh first doses have been administered, while over 38 crore 7 lakh second doses have been given. More than 61.21 lakh doses were administered in the past 24 hours.
Meanwhile, back home in the national capital, the Supreme Court will hear the matter of air pollution in Delhi NCR today. The centre is also likely to submit an action plan by today morning as directed by the court. Earlier, while hearing the case on Monday, the apex court asked the centre and state governments of the national capital region or NCR to address within 24 hours the main causes of air pollution: construction activities, power plants, industries, transport and road traffic. Bench headed by Chief Justice of India N.V. Ramana requested the states to pursue farmers not to burn stubble for 2 weeks. Since Sunday, Delhi's air quality continues to remain in the very poor category, and it is expected to remain in that zone for some more days. According to the System of Air Quality and Weather Forecasting and Research, the overall air quality index, that's AQI, stands at 379 today.
On Tuesday night, the Commission for Air Quality Management issued a series of directions to governments of Delhi, Haryana, Rajasthan and Uttar Pradesh to deal with the air pollution crisis. All schools, colleges and educational institutions in Delhi NCR have been instructed to remain shut until further notice as a result of poor air quality in NCR. The measures are to be implemented with immediate effect. The state governments have to file compliance reports regarding the same on the 22nd of November. Apart from the closure of educational institutions, the Commission has directed that at least 50% of staff in government offices in Delhi NCR be allowed to work from home till the 21st of November. In private establishments, the same is to be encouraged in order to cut down on vehicular pollution. Except for those carrying essential goods, trucks will not be allowed to enter Delhi until the 21st of November. All construction and demolition activities, barring exceptions, are to be stopped till that date. The exceptions include railway services and stations, Metro Rail Corporation services including stations, airports and interstate bus terminals, national security or defense related activities and projects of national importance. The governments of Delhi and NCR states have been asked to stop the plying of visibly polluting vehicles and those with valid pollution under control certificates. In addition, traffic task force teams are to be deployed to ensure smooth flow of traffic. 6 out of 11 thermal plants located within 300 kilometers radius of Delhi have been asked to remain inoperative till the 30th of November.
Well, after a look at all the national stories, it's time now to shift focus and take a look at all the events happening across the globe in this segment.
And a big story we take from Uganda, where at least 3 people are reported dead and over 30 others were injured in a suicide blast in the capital, Kampala. The attacks were conducted by 3 suicide bombers who blew themselves up near Parliament and the city's police headquarters. The explosion sent members of Parliament and others rushing for cover as cars burst into flames, in the latest in a wave of bomb attacks. The attacks came within 3 minutes of each other. More bombs have been found in other parts of the city. There was no immediate claim of responsibility. Police say intelligence indicated the Islamic State-aligned Allied Democratic Forces were responsible.
The hallmarks of the attack clearly indicate that the ADF-linked radicalized groups who still have a desire to carry out lethal attacks on soft targets using suicide attackers and improvised explosive devices behind these attacks. Because the nature of the bombs they are using and the nature of the attacks is their latest strategy.
Well, an update now on the migrant crisis at the Poland-Belarus border. After Tuesday's standoff at the Poland-Belarus border between thousands of stranded migrants and the Polish border forces, a video published by Polish officials on social media shows that the crossing point compound has been cleared on the Belarusian side. The migrants are seemingly returning to their former makeshift camp located a few hundred meters further along the border line. Earlier on Tuesday, Polish security forces turned water cannons on migrants who threw rocks across the Belarusian border, where thousands have gathered in a chaotic attempt to cross into the country from Belarus. An estimated 4,000 migrants are at the border, and many say Belarusian authorities are not allowing them to return to Minsk. The crisis has led the EU to prepare further sanctions against Belarus, which it accuses of attempting to destabilize the bloc by pushing migrants across the border illegally. For weeks, thousands of migrants, mostly from the Middle East, have been gathering at the Belarus border in an attempt to reach the European Union. Belarus has been accused of pushing migrants to the border to try and destabilize the EU, a charge it denies. The migrants, including children, have been living in makeshift camps in freezing conditions just inside Belarus. In recent days, thousands have converged on a crossing at Kuniska, south of Grodno, on northwest Belarus.
Meanwhile, the Council of Europe Commissioner for Human Rights, Dunja Mijatovic, visited a migrant aid center near Poland's border with Belarus on Tuesday. Later, talking to reporters, Mijatovic said the behavior of Belarus regarding the issue of migrants camped on its borders with European Union member neighbors is unacceptable. She further said the situation is extremely complex and problematic as tensions continue between Belarus and nations including Poland, Latvia and Lithuania. Mijatovic called for de-escalation so that the suffering of migrants who are largely camped in freezing conditions and makeshift border camps can be alleviated.
It is evidently extremely complex and problematic. We can see enormous suffering of people that are left in limbo. It is absolutely unacceptable what Belarus is doing and how the people are manipulated. But at the same time, I think we need to step aside and think, what is happening at the European border. Why are these people left in limbo, and what can be done in order to stop this extremely dangerous situation? We need to find a way to de-escalate, to make sure that the focus is really to stop the suffering.
Well, NATO Secretary General Jens Stoltenberg, meanwhile, said he was deeply concerned about how Belarus was putting the lives of vulnerable migrants at risk.
We are deeply concerned about the way the Lukashenko regime is using vulnerable migrants as a hybrid tactic against other countries, and this is actually putting the life of the migrants at risk, and it is a way of using people, instrumentalizing people in hybrid tactics against other countries. So we follow this very closely, and we stand in solidarity with Poland and other allies affected.
And US President Joe Biden said on Tuesday that he expected the Build Back Better legislation to be passed within a week's time. The $1.75 trillion proposal aims to expand the social safety net in the United States and boost climate change policy. Biden spoke in Woodstock, New Hampshire, in front of the 82-year-old NH-175 bridge, which is in need of repair. The bridge, which crosses the Pemigewasset River, was the backdrop for Biden to tout the $1.2 trillion infrastructure bill he signed into law on Monday.
I'm confident that the House is going to pass this bill. And when it passes, it'll go to the Senate. I think we'll get it passed within a week. We can deliver real results. We can deliver real people results that are going to affect their lives. And that we're taking a monumental step forward in building back better for this nation.
Well, more people were urged to leave their homes on Tuesday, and officials in a small Washington city near the Canada border are calling the damage devastating after a storm that dumped rain for days caused flooding and mudslides. Suma city officials said on Tuesday on social media that hundreds of people have been evacuated, and they estimated that 75% of homes had water damage in a soaking that reminded people of Western Washington's record severe flooding in November 1990, when 2 people died and there were more than 2,000 evacuations. Additionally, 6 railroad cars that have been sitting on tracks in a BNSF rail yard in Sumas derailed in the flooding on Tuesday, and trains in that location and others won't be running until water recedes and debris is removed and tracks are inspected.
And a look now at our regular COVID updates from across the world, as cases have crossed 25 crore 50 lakhs when reports last came in. In exact, more than 23 crore 5 lakh people have recovered globally. 51 lakh 29,000 lives have been lost to COVID. The United States continues to remain the hardest hit, with the number of cases standing at above 4 crore 81 lakhs, with the death toll surpassing 7 lakh 86,000.
Well, Austria has imposed a lockdown on people unvaccinated against COVID-19 on Monday as winter approaches and infections rise across Europe, while with Germany considering tighter curbs and Britain expanding its booster program to younger adults. Europe has again become the epicenter of the pandemic, prompting some countries to consider reintroducing restrictions in the run-up to Christmas and stirring debate over whether vaccines alone are enough to tame COVID-19. France, Netherlands and many countries in Eastern Europe are also experiencing a surge in infections. WHO's technical lead for COVID-19, Maria Vankov, warned that cases and deaths are increasing for the 4th week in a row globally.
US-based drug maker Pfizer has said that it is seeking US authorization of its experimental antiviral COVID-19 pill that cuts the chance of hospitalization or death for adults at risk of severe disease by 89% in a clinical trial. Pfizer says it has completed submission of its application for emergency use authorization of the drug Paxlovid with the US Food and Drug Administration, including data from the drug maker's clinical trial. The oral drug is supposed to be a promising new weapon in the fight against the pandemic, as it can be taken as an early at-home treatment to help prevent COVID-19 hospitalizations and deaths. It could also become an important tool in countries and areas with limited access to vaccines or low vaccination rates. However, it is not immediately clear when US regulations will rule on Pfizer's application.
As COVID cases rise in France as in the rest of Europe, those getting their vaccinations on Tuesday are hoping it will help avoid a lockdown. New COVID-19 cases have surpassed a daily average of 10,000 and new cases have seen double-digit percentage increases week on week since around mid-October, and the government has assured that a lockdown is not on the horizon. But at a vaccination center in the Paris suburb of Saint-Quentin, many viewed the vaccine as the only way out of the crisis. Europe has again become the epicenter of the pandemic, prompting some countries to consider reintroducing restrictions in the run-up to Christmas and stirring debate over whether vaccines alone are enough to tame COVID-19.
And Austria has imposed a lockdown on people who are still unvaccinated against coronavirus. This move comes as winter approaches and infections are seeing a rise across Europe, with Britain expanding its booster program to younger adults, and Germany will likely impose tighter curbs. Around 2 million unvaccinated people in Austria have been placed into lockdown as the country faces a surge in cases. Police in Vienna on Tuesday carried out spot checks of shoppers' COVID-19 vaccination status as part of a national lockdown on the unvaccinated. In groups of 4, officers checked people walking in and out of shops on one of the capital's busiest streets. Austria imposed a lockdown on COVID unvaccinated people on Monday as winter approaches and infections rise across Europe, with Germany considering tighter curbs and Britain expanding its booster program for younger adults. And time now to move on to our next segment, take stock of what's trending on the World Wide Web.
Well, we've got our colleague Meghna standing by. Meghna, good morning. Over to you.
Good morning, Anil and Rukma. We'll begin with the web news review for today. 10 people have been held as CBI has raided about 77 places in a crackdown on child porn. And as many as 23 FIRs were registered against about 83 accused people in last 2 days for allegedly posting and circulating child sexual exploitation material on various social media platforms. And these 10 people have also been detained regarding the same, and these raids have been carried out in 14 states and union territories across 77 places, a major crackdown on child porn, child sexual exploitation. Next we have is NHAI mandates monthly video recording of construction using drones. So all the contractors of NH projects will now need to carry out video recording of the progress of the construction that is being carried out by them, so that the progress can be monitored, strictly monitored, and non-compliance is going to attract about 5 lakh rupee of fine. Besides that, this is also to ensure that the project is completed on time, and the video footage that is recorded can also help for arbitration and resolution of disputes. Next we have is Pochampalli, a village in Telangana, is set to be named as one of the best tourism villages by the UN World Tourism Organization. So Pochampalli is an artisanal village, and it is known for its exceptional ikat weaves and texture. Visitors who come here throng to this place to actually know more about the handloom, the texture, the workers, the handloom equipments, and play with colors and designs. So definitely a very important feat for Pochampalli village. Next we have Kashmir witnesses bumper tourist season this year. Officials have said about 4.25 lakh visitors have toured places in the Himalayan Valley till the first week of November, and the outlook for winter is also bright because there have been several advanced bookings made. So definitely a very important tourist season, because this is the tourist season for the valley, and tourists thronging in there. In fact, a good news for tourist operators and the businesses actually associated with tourism. Next and the last we have for today is heavy rainfall to continue in Kerala, Karnataka, and Tamil Nadu. And meanwhile, thunderstorm and lightning forecast have been forecasted for Goa and Maharashtra. The IMD has issued heavy rainfall alert for 7 states and UTs for the next 5 days. So that's all that I have in the web news review for today. Back to the studios for more news and updates.
Well, thank you, Meghna, for that quick and short update from the online media there. Thank you, thank you and appreciate you joining us this morning with that web news review. Time now to shift focus and move over to sports.
Looking ahead for the Indian cricket team from the follies of the ICC T20 World Cup, Rohit Sharma is set to take charge as India's T20 captain, following Virat Kohli's stepping down from the captaincy in the shortest format. Not only this, outgoing head coach Ravi Shastri's tenure will be replaced by new head coach Rahul Dravid. So under the new leadership of Rahul Dravid and Rohit Sharma, the players of Team India have begun training in Jaipur for the first T20 International against New Zealand that will be played on the 17th of November.
Well, France completed their World Cup qualifying campaign with a 2-0 win against Finland on Tuesday. The French attack stuttered until Karim Benzema came on as a second-half substitute and Mbappe set him up for the opener. Mbappe then scored France's second as the world champions who had already qualified for Qatar 2022 after Saturday's 8-0 demolition of Kazakhstan finished Group D with 18 points from 8 matches. Finland, who were hoping to secure a playoff spot, ended on third spot with 11 points, one behind Ukraine, who beat Bosnia 2-0 to take the second place.
And Netherlands qualified for next year's World Cup with a 2-0 home victory over Norway on Tuesday to win Group G. Netherlands forwards Steven Bergwijn and Memphis Depay struck late to send their country into the 2022 World Cup finals. The Dutch returned to the finals after missing out on the 2018 tournament in Russia, but with little conviction after limping through their last two qualifiers. The Netherlands finished with 23 points from 10 games, with 2 more than Turkey, who won 2-1 away to Montenegro to secure a playoff spot. Norway ended third in the group with 18 points.
Staying with sports but shifting to badminton, where two-time Olympic medalist PV Sindhu eased into the second round of the opening day of Indonesia Masters Super 750 on Tuesday. Third-seeded Sindhu recorded a 21-15, 21-19 win over Thailand's Supinda Hong in a 43-minute-long women's singles match to set up a second-round clash with Spain's Clara Azurmendi. Moving to the men's section of the draw, Lakshya Sen showed his mettle with a stunning victory over world number 10, Japanese Kanta Tsuneyama on the opening day. Lakshya displays tremendous grit on way to a 21-17, 18-21, 21-17 win over Kanta in 1 hour and 8 minutes. Lakshya will now face top seed and two-time world champion Kento Momento of Japan in the next round. However, 6-seeded Indian men's doubles pair of Satvik Sairaj Ranki Reddy and Chirag Shetty lost 17-21, 15-21 to Malaysia's Ong Wing Sing and Teo Ing Wee to bow out of the competition.
And moving on now to a saga of freedom story for today. India's glorious freedom struggle is one of the greatest struggles the modern world has ever witnessed. In today's edition of the Saga of Freedom, we remember valiant hero of the freedom movement and great revolutionary Lala Lajpat Rai, a lawyer, journalist and a major player in our struggle for freedom. We also talk about the third and last roundtable conference that led to the enforcement of the Government of India Act.
"17th of November is the death anniversary of the valiant hero of the freedom struggle and great revolutionary Lala Lajpat Rai. Popularly known as Punjab Kesari or the Lion of Punjab, he was a prominent member of the Lal Bal Pal trio, which included Bal Gangadhar Tilak and Bipin Chandra Pal, who changed the political discourse of the independence movement. Lala Lajpat Rai was born on January the 28th, 1865 in Dhudike, Punjab. In 1886, he moved to Hisar and started practicing law. He also took up journalism and contributed articles to several newspapers such as the Tribune.
In 1914, he quit practicing law and focused on India's freedom struggle. Lala Lajpat Rai founded the Indian Home Rule League in New York and launched a monthly journal, Young India, as well as the Hindustan Information Services Association. Due to his involvement with the Indian National Congress and participation in the political agitation in Punjab, Lala Lajpat Rai was deported to Mandalay in Burma without trial in 1907. He returned the same year when the Viceroy Lord Minto failed to produce evidence to further detain him for subversion. He founded the National College at the Bradlaugh Hall in Lahore and enrolled Bhagat Singh as a student.
In 1920, Lala Lajpat Rai was elected the president of the Indian National Congress. He was jailed from 1921 to 1923 for taking part in the non-cooperation movement. After his release, he was elected to the Legislative Assembly. In 1928, the British government set up the Simon Commission to discuss constitutional reforms in India.
When the commission visited Lahore on 30th October 1928, Lala Lajpat Rai led a non-violent march in protest against it because the panel did not include any Indian member.
Simon Commission! Simon!
The Superintendent of Police, James A. Scott, ordered a lathi charge on the protesters and personally assaulted Rai, who sustained severe head injuries. He did not recover from the injuries and died on 17th November 1928 following a heart attack.
Also on the 17th of November 1932, the third and last Roundtable Conference began. It concluded on 24th December 1932. Gandhiji and the Indian National Congress did not attend the conference. Many other Indian leaders were also absent. Like the previous two conferences, little was achieved.
The recommendations were published in a white paper in March 1933 and debated in Parliament afterwards. A joint select committee was formed to analyze the recommendations and formulate a new act for India. The committee produced a draft bill in February 1935, which was enforced as a Government of India Act in July 1935.
Well, that's all we have time for in this edition of Breakfast News. Remember that fight against COVID-19 continues. We are still in that festive spirit as we head into New Year. 44 days still left in the year, but remember that it's not a trade-off that one can do. If you've not got yourself vaccinated, please go ahead and get it. That could be one of the best gifts that you could give your loved ones and also the society at large, because if each and every one of us gets vaccinated, we stand a better chance to maybe see a better tomorrow.
Exactly. And as you were mentioning about the festive season, well, New Year is coming, but before that we have Christmas, and with the Christmas season setting in, we leave you this morning with visuals of Christmas festivity in France. Take a look at these amazing visuals and enjoy. Namaskar.
Bye-bye. Take care.